Today, we're going to be discussing defense mechanisms and triggers and how we can use them for healing.
And the way that I see the triggers is almost like an intense reaction to a behavior, some language, maybe even memories that come up, and it kind of makes us go into that trigger that says, oh my goodness, if I don't react, I am powerless.
There's so much feeling of helplessness around it, like most people, myself included, until I started really working with this. We feel like it's just an automatic reaction that we're having and that it's, warranted. Most of the time we get very defensive about our position, but it's just so important to really dive into this.
One of the things that I notice the most, including with myself, is when I am being triggered or when my clients are being triggered, there is also not only that defensiveness, but it's also like, how dare you, right? Like, how dare you do X, Y, and Z? Because at first we don't see it as this is an opportunity for me to heal, but this is an attack on my persona, right? So, right. When we start reframing it from this is the attack or this is a negative situation to where is the healing opportunity here? But it's hard to do that at the beginning because you feel attacked, you feel vulnerable.
When I'm with people in the community and I see that, let's say I've had a client that decided that they wanted to end a relationship and they're saying that it wasn't anything and they're ready to move on to a new relationship, right? So I found that getting them away from other people and talking to them one-on-one about why they feel the way they feel and trying to remind them of some of the good things that I've heard them say or that I've seen them do with their partners can be very helpful in them opening it up to let me know how they really feel about that situation, despite what they might seem normalized, what society says, how fast they should move on.
You reminded me of what happens with a lot of my clients when they say, I have a relationship pattern. And when in the session, when they're realizing that they have a relationship pattern, it's like, oh, wow, this is why I move on so quickly. Or this is why I don't go for that relationship, because there are so many layers there that reminds me or takes me back to when X, Y, and Z happened in an earlier experience, normally in childhood.
Yeah, or like why I don't move on. Like there's so many ways that we internalize these things that they come to light in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
It's important because we've developed these coping mechanisms for a reason. I'm not always saying they're justified, but at some point something happens and we've developed these ways to cope. And until we recognize that it's a pattern, there's no way we escape that pattern or heal or grow and get past it.
And the first thing that I have my clients do is really stop and breathe and identify that emotion. Like, what are you feeling? Sometimes by process of elimination, but because many of us don't even know that we're being triggered because we've been programmed to shut it down or just lash out. So once we identify that emotion, then we can move to like identifying where in the body am I feeling this? Because we hold trapped energy in our energetic system. So it's really important to figure out where that energy, those emotions are stuck.
So I talked about this earlier, identifying the patterns. Because a lot of us, like you said, this is subconscious. We don't realize that we're doing it. So similar to you, Amy, instead of just identifying what that pattern, what the emotion is, I try to get them to start looking into patterns. And then we just start questioning. And what I tend to get down to the bottom of with my clients is there's a need that's not being met. And they're not good at expressing that need being met. And instead of verbally expressing it, they just go into their defense mechanism, which could be projection, denial, rationalizations.
When I'm working with my clients, if I happen to be the one that triggers them, we talk about it. We talk about what happened. First, I apologize because that wasn't my intention. And we try to navigate to the core issue on what happened. And through communication with them, they realize it's not even me that may have done it. It's something that they've picked up over the years. And what I like to encourage them to do, if you're interested in working on those issues, I have some individuals that would be more than likely willing to work with you if you are ready.
Like I get triggered when X, Y, and Z happen, right? So working through the context. What is the context? And then what is it that you feel when you think of this context? So I feel when my boyfriend doesn't talk to me and we're fighting, I feel the emotion. And when I feel that emotion, I believe I am the belief. And that's how we get to the bottom of really what is going on so that we can regress then to the origin of the issue. But to your point, MJ, I think that's beautiful, because when we are healers or therapists or practitioners, what happens is that we are seeing a lot of people, right? And a lot of people come with so many different issues. Sometimes we are reflecting to them those triggers, right? So we have to walk a very interesting line of when to push and when not to push, and how to recognize those triggers before the client sees the trigger, so that we can continue to have a beautiful relationship.
So like, let stuff out, even if it's not towards me, that I won't take it personal, but go ahead, like let it out, be vulnerable. Like if I'm triggering you, let's get down to the bottom of it and say it all. And then a lot of times after they've said what they need to, they realize, oh wait, that's actually what I've been thinking about my mother or my sister, or right, like it goes back to the origin, like Victoria, you mentioned that you do with them.